The truth is that the occults were used to shut us down from being able to sense everything all around us. Because when we can sense all around us and far as wide as we can do, which is undefined, and it happens naturally when we're not educated and forced to lock inside a fiction, where it's like the sun rays are turned back on self and turning the sun into a black hole, because now there's no more light, there's no more light of life shining out. We're no longer sensing everything around us as far as one, seeing everything what it really is, to our unique experience. Each of us having that unique experience with everything and never doing harm to anything, because that's what happens when you're brought up by the good heart and its virtues through nature, because that's what it is. That's our natural consciousness. When we get lost, we will do harm. Because to have paper, you got to destroy trees, you got to have machines, you got to have factories and conveyor belts, and you got to recycle, and the chemicals that are used, and the inks that are used, and the amount of things we have to keep destroying and doing harm. Even all the recycling requires immense harm. All the solar energy requires immense harm to nature, just even have solar energy, creating ultra toxic, lethal lakes of poisons that are killing many, many in China. And the pollution and everything we're doing is all part of this dream to cause man to commit spiritual suicide collectively as that end time plan, where we all who worship the fiction, who live for the fictional person ID, who no longer have a soul, they end up with nothing, because there was nothing there in the first place, because all fiction is nothing. It was just raised from nothing. This is what the dead is. And you've all been deceived, as we've all been deceived. And I'm aware of it. I'm in a car communicating with you right now. My family's homeless in a world of drones who support the system to make sure that our homelessness is maintained. Be that whether some of those see us as a threat to them, and so they can malevolently manipulate circumstances to create these situations. It doesn't matter. Or it doesn't matter, but many of us will fall through the cracks because all of us still have some connection to good heart. None of us really wants to support poverty and homelessness, but we do. And that's why I was saying that when we think we love, when we say we love something, we actually hate it. Because you can't love a fiction, because the fiction is already destruction to what we say that we love. So when we love a building, we're saying we hate the mountain. We hate the valleys and the trees and the creatures and everything that was killed and murdered. All of who had no say in wanting to be turned into fiction, to be dead things. So we can run out and say that we love buildings or that we love money, because money is destroyed creation, destroyed life. There's no money there. You can't go and visit and talk to money. You can't eat money, because it's just an invisible intellectual thought form, a construct, concept made out of thin air, given material physical form by drones who created it in belief that it is true and that we must worship these statutes, hence the Ten Commandments and Moses coming down and seeing his people. This is all occultic nonsense, guys, but seeing his people all worshipping statues. But the church is a statue. Putting a man on a cross, crucified, is a statue, is a fiction. And anyone who falls into these religions becomes a statue, under statutes, ruled by commerce, ruled by fiction, in a system hierarchy, an order inside your imagining of your delusion, believing it all to be true, that control the domain of your dream of life, because you're sold out. You don't know who you are anymore. If you're a child brought up by nature, none of this is happening. And you would never accept anyone authority over anyone, or let alone you or anyone. So it takes a lot of work in fiction to raise children to become drones who run around and go and play netball and volleyball and play sport and learn how to play first and last, rich and poor, good and bad. But all these are fictions, because you don't learn. Nature doesn't teach you any of this stuff. The good heart doesn't teach any of this stuff. Only in the fiction amongst the dead who are lost to sense, who can't sense beyond the fiction of their personality, their person-in-law. They can't sense. So they, in first impression, when they come across this man and what this man talks about, they'll think this man's some nutter, that this man's lost it. But none of them could take me on, because I would challenge them and show them the fiction they worship, where their delusion is coming from, and claiming that this man is a cult and part of some cult, or has lost a plot, or is psychotic or whatever. I turn it on tables on them like that. So all the money in the world won't fix this problem we have today. And worshiping money won't fix it, because you're in the fiction, you're in the matrix, and all you can do is perpetuate devastation until there's nothing left of the dream of life, of your life, and you're gone. And if you truly go like that, you're gone forevermore, because there's nothing there. You created no soul. You will not be one of those lights that all sang that song to me when they appeared. You weren't there, because you never created it. Doesn't matter whether you weren't allowed to or not. The fact is, you didn't use your willpower to wake up what was going on and fix this. Because if you die as a fiction. You die as nothing. You were raised from nothing, that fiction, and you will die as nothing. And that's why people say, I love you, when they don't. And all the time they don't love you. And when you get a partner who doesn't love you, they're siphoning all the life energy from the partner who loves. Because it's all going to the person who loves, who doesn't love, all the power. That's why women end up with most of the men's properties when they work their ass off for 30, 40 years or 20 years and have the law steal it all for them. There's occasions for some men go the other way around, but it's mostly women. It was never about coronavirus. It was about getting you all to be locked inside this all-seeing mind of the person, this intellectual thing with no connection to sense. And that was the experiment of these nutcases who are pushing forward this agenda. And that's why we had fluoride in the water, because it calcifies the pineal gland to disconnect your ability to sense everything around you naturally. And why so many other things, and why you're constantly being entertained. Ecclesiastical, these high priests and their intentions. And then you look at ent, and then break down the words into the roots of Latin and Hebrew and Greek. You'll see the roots of this just break down entertainment. You'll be blown away as you break down all the little letters and words, and you'll see just the staggering of the evil of this thing. If you put that effort in, work it out. And then look at the etymology and the phonetics behind it as well, that carries intent in the bloodletting and blood libel. So when people say hello, I say, oh, I'm not in hell and I don't feel low. But they're saying hello. I'm not going to be called up into the dead to be hell and low. I'll say hi. Others say good morning. I say I'm not mourning. It's a beautiful day, but I'm not mourning. What a lovely evening. I've not fallen into evening. I'm not down in the dark side, living in the occultic trap inside your head, trapped by this nonsense, because it's all imaginary. So that when we inculcate children, they be brought up as drones who can't sense. And they've done the coronavirus, and they've done it with the HAARP and the chemtrails and HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. Look into it, HAARP, which is these frequencies and pulses they're putting up in the ionosphere to bring down all this effect on us. And with the experimental mRNA injections, because it's not a vaccination, it has no any history to what a vaccination is. And then you look at the chemtrails, the chemical trails that have barium oxide, aluminum oxide, as all these other heavy metals which are in the vaccinations, with human body parts which are in the vaccinations, which is in the chemical trails. And these metals are all circulating. You see these chemical trails. So there's a whole lot happening inside the domain of man's dream of life, which is creation. The whole of creation, the domain, being attacked. And then every man's head's been attacked. The domain. To shut us down. So we don't know who we are, what we are anymore. And cull us off. Because so many men are being killed off, because men used to kill these occultists for these demonic, malevolent things they did back in the olden times of what we call Scandinavia today, and other parts all the way through Russia and all the way through to Siberia and Germany and other areas, because it was traditional. If men caught anyone, male or woman, trying to get in someone else's head with this method, they'd kill them, put them up on the fires as witches and warlocks and burn them to death, murder them. There's a history of killing these people. Because behind Zionism and Judaism, going right back, we're talking about the occults. The most of the Jews today are Ashkenazi Jews, and these are just tribal people that were brought out of parts of what we now, of the old Soviet Union. But they're not Jews. They were inculcated during the Byzantine and the Ottoman Empire, where the Shahs decided to which one I'm going to use, and they decided to use Judaism as their form of faith instead of Christendom or Mohammedism. But they're not Jews, because Jewish is not a religion in that way. It's not like a culture. It's an indoctrination. But this really is, everything's the same like that, really, when you peel this back. So what I'm getting at, that the occultists hide behind race, culture, creed, title, standing. They act as Australians, they act as Americans, they act as constitutional experts, they act as judges and lawyers and barristers, they act as politicians on any side. They act as educators and professors and so on. And all these who sell out to this are under these societies and orders of these hierarchies, so worshipping this all-seeing eye of this mind, intellect, the person of this egregore, this collective beast, the apocalypse that we're all worshipping. And we're all individual egos of the egregore heading into earthwide apocalypse, devastation everywhere. No remedy to be found in the system. No matter what we come up with, relying on the system is relying on fiction to fix matters of reality. That's impossible. The only way you can fix it is to step away from it all, but you've got to get your senses back. You've got to be able to step aside from all of this. And this is what the Love for Life work is all about, and why these experiences, these phenomena, or you can call it, or encounters, and that 2-week sleep, is because this dream was so strong in this man for truth. That started when the man was 14, where I nearly killed my father. It was the last time I nearly killed my father because I found him trying to shove my mother's head down the toilet with her feet hanging out of the outside laundry. And I grabbed this bigger guy and I threw him up in absolute rage of that high adrenaline. I picked him and threw him upwards up into the wall and literally knocked him out as he came crumbling down. And I grabbed the chair and I was just going to kill him and smash him in absolute rage, hatred for my father. 14, nearly 15. Then I grew up with this violence, trying to protect my mother with a burden. Because my mother screamed out and said, "Stop, no!" And I dropped the chair. I was just... But I've had this burden of protecting my mother since I was such a little boy. Because the earliest memories I have was my father choking my mother over the kitchen stove, literally choking her. I'm talking really young little kid. And the screaming and the fighting and the violence and the bite marks and the bites on their faces and the bruises and the black eyes and my mum and dad fought like you wouldn't believe. They were just, it was nasty and malevolent. And they did terrible things to the vessel, this man. Terrible things. Mum tied me up on a clothesline that damaged my lower back because he used to run away and come home with dogs, or I'd end up miles away in a police station and they had to bring me back because I ran away and got on a bus. 2, 3, 4-year-old kid. I need to realise I was being sexually abused and I wasn't safe. That my mother left me with a woman who was part of some mad thing inside whatever Greek world it was that was sexually abusing this vessel. So I've encountered so much pain and suffering. You know, I won't go through all my story. I mean, it's that much. But that's no exclusivity privilege for me against anybody else who suffers. Suffering is suffering, and it's terrible. No child needs that. But I want to know what the system was. I want to know what the truth was. I want to know what was going on. And that's why I ended up with this skill set of having one foot in the dark, one foot in the light, and I could talk about these things. And any of you who dive into all the Love for Life work, you can go to as many videos in the Arthur Love for Life /videos YouTube channel. You'll find plenty of them. I'm just sharing phonetics, etymology, metaphors, analogies, using visual imagery as much as I can to help you not get into a cultish thing with me. I don't want to shape you into following me. I just want you to see what's been done to you, and that everything that is not who you are. So you can find a way to create who you really are, because I can't do that. No one can. We each have to do that through our free will, through our senses. Meaning that every single alphabet in our head is not us. Every single thought that you can, if you can slow down and listen to every single thought in your head, if it's an alphabet, it's not you. It's borrowed. It's part of the matrix fiction that's formulated your fake personality. It's formulated your fake performances of your life that is not your life at all. It's a borrowed life, a rented life. And it's here where the true awakening occurs. It's not an awakening through another revolution of people coming up with another movement. And you've got to watch out for all the script, because everybody in the system is so used to being lulled in scripts from so young through fairy tales and other means of communicating through pictures and drawings to little kids, that we're so used to being lulled into scripts. And all the Pied Pipers today, and there's multi-thousands of these, what Christians calls false prophets, they talk to you through storytelling to lull you again into scripts where you borrowed consciousness from a shelf, and they pressed the buzzer, they pressed the trigger you to recall that fiction of consciousness, of creation of galaxies and universes, of other archetypals and of other lives and other worlds and afterlives and all this garbage, because it was already done to you from so young, and you've accepted so much. So it's easy for these Pied Pipers to just call you and resummon these things to you. But none of it is real. And that's why they say we will lead every revolution against us. We will get you to dream what we want you to dream, so you live for that dream. And while you live for that dream, we have power and control over you. And we will provide systems that will manage through administration over you. Which means that you don't have freedom on land. You've never had freedom on land to create your real soul.